fun doing this. So we are live. Welcome, entrepreneurs. This is Joe DeChara with another surprise version of how you can win big at business. And like I said, I started doing these live Facebook interviews with group members and people that are outside of our group. Believe it or not, we have outsiders. But hopefully once they get a taste of Bedrock Business Builders, they'll join. So I want to invite sorry.
Do you need help?
No, give me 1 second. I want to invite, yes, obviously I needed help. I want to invite now Victoria Shaw, who is actually an Ivy League trained psychologist and the first Ivy League psychologist that I've ever spoken to.
Oh, wow.
And I'm pretty impressed with that. So anytime I get like a doctor or an Ivy League, I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm associating with the right people, man. These aren't the people I hung out with in high school. So Victoria, thank you for visiting us here today. And I know that this is going to be fun because we had a conversation and I had to stop you because you were going to, I like to learn and grow in when I do these interviews. So I'm going to let you start talking and introduce yourself and let us know, who you are and how you got to where you are.
Cool. Thank you. And thank you for having me. This is one of my...
You have 3 minutes to do all that.
All right, here we go. This is one of my very first Facebook Lives. So bear with me, friends. No, but I am Victoria Shaw. I'm an intuitive coach and counselor and was originally trained, as Joe said, as a research psychologist at Princeton. And then suddenly found myself in the woo-woo world of being an intuitive counselor. And I'm also a licensed professional counselor in the state of Connecticut. So I do that too. But my real gem is my intuition. And what I feel like my mission and purpose is to help people connect with their own inner wisdom. Because for me, awakening to that inner wisdom was a complete game changer in every aspect of my life. And I want to help other people have that experience too.
That's you did an unbelievable job. I got a feeling that you've done this before.
Nah.
Yeah. Really? Okay. I believe you, but you're a natural. I think you have big things in front of you.
Oh, that's very kind.
Seriously. So you raised a couple of questions. You said, what is it? Your inner
wisdom.
Wisdom. Okay, inner wisdom. I gotta take better notes. Explain what that is.
Absolutely. So the way that I understand it, and I understand it from a spiritual perspective, not a religious perspective, but a spiritual one. And you don't have to understand it that way for it to work, but that's how I understand it. I think we're all spiritual beings in physical bodies, and we're here to have our interesting, exciting lives, share our gifts, learn, grow, and, hang out with each other while in physical form. And your intuition is your direct link to your soul. So that's all of the wisdom and guidance and knowledge that you have as a spirit, but you forget when you come into your body. That's your intuition. And everybody has it because we are all spiritual beings in physical form. And even if you don't buy the spiritual stuff, which you may or may not, it's always working for you. And I have yet to meet anyone that I've ever talked to on this planet who has never had an experience with their intuition, never had an experience where they knew something and they didn't know how they knew it, but they knew it in their bones and they were 100% correct. That's your intuition. And we all have it.
That's so this opens up a Pandora's box for me with a whole slew of other questions. So I'll tell you right now, we'll be inviting you for another Facebook Live.
Oh, yay.
Maybe we'll do one at 8 p.m. slot. So where did you say you were from?
I'm from Connecticut.
Okay. I love you.
Eastern time zone. Is that helpful?
Yeah. So
Good deal.
I got to start. I might just do Eastern time zone interviews.
It's so hard when you don't, right? That's what I'm finding with my podcast and all the things that I'm doing is I have to remember that time zone or things get really funky.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So you've been guests on podcasts.
Yeah, I've been guests on podcasts. I have a podcast.
Okay. Awesome.
So lots of cool connections that way. And I work with clients all over the world. So that is a thing too. But then that's happening more and more for me where I'm, expanding to people in multiple time zones. But it's always important to ask that question and not assume that everyone has your time.
It has been. It's been like one of my business practices because, and, I was going to say, and I don't want to say that. I stopped myself. Thank you, God. Uh, a lot of good things have happened over the last couple of months. Yeah, there's the bad part of the pandemic,
Yes, sir.
but it's like the earth is waking up, it's breathing again. People have reconnected, and I don't know about you, but I've connected with so many people. This is my fourth Zoom or meeting today, and I got I think two more scheduled. So it's just opened up a whole nother world. And yeah, I have contacts in the UK now. I have a client in Japan.
Right. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And I don't want to get off track, and I want to focus on you, but I just have to point out that there's so many opportunities, more than ever, for people to grow their business, just start a business. So that's pretty exciting.
And that's what happens too. I mean, I think from a kind of a spiritual perspective, if you want to take that, what's happening now, you said it, the earth is growing, the earth is changing, it's awakening. And even though it's a little bit messy, when things are taken away from us or when our routines are disrupted, it really helps you to see what's really important to you and, find those golden nuggets and those things that maybe you wouldn't have seen if you didn't have to slow down, or maybe you wouldn't have valued if they weren't taken away or they weren't the thing that you still had. And you're like, oh my God, this is all I really need. So it's really helping us all to sort of look at our lives and see where we're ready to grow, see what we're ready to let go of. And I think this is happening individually and collectively. And yeah, some of the ugliness is bubbling up too, but that's also to show us what's not working so that we can change it.
That's a great point. And yeah, you don't realize it. You're like, forget the restaurants and everything. Just going to get a haircut.
Yes.
I can't wait to go get a haircut. And that, I'm not.
I just got mine done today, so.
Okay. But
I get it.
You're like, now I appreciate my dog groomer.
Yes, absolutely.
So all these little things, you're like, oh my God, I could,
Yes.
So when they come back, I think that people now are ready to explode and start spending.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
And I think people too are recognizing, I've had so many clients who are at home now. I mean, and some have lost jobs for sure, but some are just working from home, telling me it's been the best 3 months of their lives and they never want to go back because they're in control of their time. They're still doing the job, but I hope this changes what we think about productivity moving forward and recognizing that when people are happy and people have space and people have time for reflection, it's magical and they're going to be way more productive. So I'm hoping the business world is figuring that out.
Well, I think they're figuring it out because they had to. It's a big shift. There's going to be a big shift in how people do business. There's going to be a lot less office space needed because, like you said, people are like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to commute.
Right. Yeah.
Why would I want to do that?
Right. Exactly. And the traffic and the pollution. And I think it's going to be a paradigm change about how we live our lives. I hope so. I already work from home. So for me, the only difference is fewer people or zero people are actually coming to my physical space right now. Yeah. But So I've been a work from homer for a while, but I think that, and I know some people that are dying to get back to the office too, and that's fine as well, wherever it is. But again, I think we're rethinking things.
Yeah, it's more like I need human contact.
Right.
Like after this, I'm gonna go take a walk to the park and see people and breathe. But I do want to cover one thing that's important that you
Yes, sir.
bring up, because about spirituality and religion.
Okay.
And I did something about 6 years ago. I hired let's say, a spiritual money mindset coach.
Oh, love it.
She had a unique set of a skill set. And what I told her, I said, I am hiring you to bring, I need to bring God into my business,
That's beautiful.
because it was just needed, let's say, at that point. And so so it wasn't religion.
Right.
I was born and raised Roman Catholic. I have no problem with any religion, but it was more of the spirit of God. And so what I want to bring up, because I'm a business guy, this is a business show,
Right.
but where that thought process, the spirituality and the universe and the connectedness correlates to business, I'll tell you exactly what Napoleon Hill had it in his first book, The Law of Success. He talks about it in Think and Grow Rich. And so does Wallace Wattles, talks about spirituality and God in the science of getting rich. Okay? And what Napoleon Hill calls it, and if you read between the lines, he says it doesn't matter what you call it. Infinite intelligence.
Yeah, that's a
what he
nice one.
calls it.
I like that.
And his things about auto-suggestion, and he said it's all about getting this energy.
Right. Yeah.
And harnessing it. And that's when he came up with the mastermind. And it's just like, the thoughts are things. And every time you create a thought, it's out there and you can tap into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and your intuition is how you tap into that intelligence.
So that's what I want to segue into, because now, so everybody knows, I don't know why I did that. I just had a feeling. I've had too many of those in my life to not believe in this infinite intelligence. There's no coincidences. I'm like, everything happens for a reason, but that doesn't matter. What matters now is I want to know, so that being said, how does that tie into these gut feelings? You're calling it intuition. Like, is that the universe talking to me? Like,
yes, sir. It's the universe talking to you. That's the easiest way to explain it, for sure. Or your own very spirit soul talking to you, because you are just a microcosm of the whole darn thing. And so, yeah, that is your connection. And, sometimes it really speaks to us really simply, like a feeling like literally in your body or your gut. And that's how most people experience their intuition first and foremost is, maybe an unpleasant feeling in your belly when it's a wrong choice, or an expansive feeling when it's a right choice, or but people have all sorts of experiences. Sometimes people hear a voice of wisdom in their head, or they see images in their mind's eye. So there's so many different ways. Sometimes intuition comes out of someone else's mouth. So you're trying to solve.
Explain that one.
You're mulling over something and you're looking for guidance, and then all of a sudden somebody says just the right thing at just the right time. That's still your intuition, because we're all connected. And so sometimes it works through works through someone else's mouth. And that's how I do my work too. Because the way that I see it is I'm a conduit. When people come to me, I get their guidance for them. Because sometimes let's be honest, when we're stuck in our lives, when we're stuck in our problems, when we're very emotionally activated, or really like stuck in our mind, we don't hear our inner guidance. And that's why it's helpful sometimes
Yes.
to have someone else to remind you and put you and say, no, look here, this is what your spirit's trying to tell you. And so, that can happen all the time. It can happen spontaneously, or it can happen someone whose, job it is to do that more. So, but it happens all the time. Sometimes people see signs, it happens for me all the time where, I don't know, an example, you're driving down the road and you see a billboard and all of a sudden answers your question. It's an aha moment. That's your intuition. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
So, yeah, I just lost my train of thought because my girlfriend just came home. But, shit, what were you saying before?
I was saying that intuition sometimes comes as signs,
okay.
and it speaks to everyone differently, but everyone has it.
I remember now because I saw the Mastermind with Joe DiChara. So everything that you were just describing, it happens in these mastermind meetings all the time.
I believe it.
And that's what Napoleon Hill was talking about, this like third, it's almost like a lightning rod. Like we're all focused on somebody and these things happen. Like nobody could explain it.
Yep.
Somebody asked a question, let's say, and this one girl, maybe you could explain what happened here. It's her turn to go. She has a question. And she says, I don't have a question. And then she said, I'm just wrapped up in trying to figure out, how to figure out what I should delegate. So I was like, oh my God, I just did this exercise with my coach. And I wound up hiring 2 VAs because I looked at it like, oh my God, I'm spending time to,
Right.
And it wound up being everybody had like a profound solution. And we were all like, oh my God. And you said you didn't have a question.
Right. Yeah. And
so what happened then?
Again, when we set the intention to get an answer and then we get out of our mind, because, most people in, our world are taught to think, figure everything out. And unfortunately, the mind is the antithesis of your intuition. And the mind is an amazing tool because when you're in human form, you have your brain, you have your mind. That's how you communicate. That's how you understand things. That's how you solve problems. There's nothing wrong with your mind. But if you just rely on your mind and you think that your mind is who and what you are, then you're going to be limited for those moments of inspiration and pure joy and all the things that we're all really looking for when we overthink our lives. And so when you make space for that inspiration to come through, it does. And so you first of all have to make the space and set the intention. You have to be comfortable in the space of not knowing the answers, because sometimes we don't want to sit in the unknown long enough for our inspiration to speak to us. And then you have to sort of recognize it when it's happening and ideally act on it. And or get in the habit of listening and even taking micro steps, because when we get into that habit of listening and acknowledging, it will talk to us more.
So you're giving us a lot of value here. I'm learning a lot.
Oh, cool.
Just because you're explaining stuff that, like I go through, I see, I'm doing a lot of masterminds now, and I see people overthinking.
Yes.
It seems to be like a common problem, and I do it. I'm like, oh my God. The last business plan I wrote, it was 200 pages. I'm supposed to be worth about $4 billion right now. And I looked at it, I'm like, so I think what you're saying is, so you're talking about the space, and I get, the word meditation. Is that, so it's like you're clearing your mind, you're just trying to think of nothing.
Meditation, you said so much in there. Meditation is one way to create space in your mind. And when you meditate, you don't try not to think of anything. because thought is always happening. And whatever you try not to do, you're doing. Like if you try not to, there's actually good cognitive psychology, back to my roots, research
Don't think of a pink
if
elephant.
bingo, you know that study. And so, right, you can't not think about something. And so meditation is a practice where you allow yourself to watch your thoughts and create space between your true awareness, which is who and what you are, and the noise of your mind. And so meditation is great for many people. And, there are lots of traditions around meditation. And it's also in a lot of esoteric traditions, there's an idea that meditation will open up your, psychic and intuitive powers. And that's all fine and well. It's not the only way to create those places of presence. And for some people, it's not the best place to start. Meditation is definitely part of my journey. But I don't meditate, more than, except in my work, like personally, maybe 10, 20 mints a day.
Oh,
And
that's good.
yeah,
You're doing it.
well, I'm doing that now. That's my COVID self help work. But you don't even have to do that. I just drop in for a couple minutes between clients, because for me to find my intuition, I have to go into that space. But there's other ways too. People hear their intuition in the shower, around water. My advisor at Princeton would always talk about, if he had a hard problem, he'd be like, that's one for the bath, because he was British.
Okay.
Okay, stop. You know what?
I'm sorry, but you bring out a point.
Yes.
We used to lift. One of my friends said, I wish I had something to write with when I'm in the shower.
Exactly.
And it became like, oh my God, all these people, like, that's when I get my best.
Yes.
And it turned out there actually was a notepad, and we bought them.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So there's actually, what does that do, the water?
I don't know how it works. I mean, it might just be, it's one of those times when the water is very calming and soothing. I know for me, walking on the beach also is a time when I really hear my own guidance. But the shower is a big one. And my podcast started between my shower. I such great episodes, singing in the shower. My podcast began in the shower, and also walking on the beach. And a lot of people get inspiration when driving. I am not that person. I hate driving, but a lot of people tell me too that, their intuition speaks to them, because your mind is just occupied enough driving that it drops off the table.
Listen, that's not good to do when you're in traffic.
Yeah, it's more when you're moving. Usually when we're in traffic, we're in a crappy mood. And
I actually got an image I have to share it with you. I think I'm going to start doing the masterminds when I'm in the shower.
It helps.
So that
I mean, you have to, unfortunately, it's a little creepy to bring people into the shower with you. I would not try that. But it's definitely a space where, you can practice and get the information. And then I usually do get the microphone out and do it for real.
But yeah, I'm kidding. But I actually have a friend that does what does she do? Oh, hot tub happy hour.
Oh, I love it.
She's in the hot tub and she's giving her like marketing words of wisdom. So I got to tell her, I'm like, listen, that's a good thing. It might be a trend now.
Absolutely. And exercise too. I was going to name my podcast Treadmill Talks, because a lot of times, and I still do this, I did this today, when I'm out walking, I'm not actually on a treadmill, but Treadmill Talks sounds so good. But when I'm exercising, I'm usually if I'm inside, I'm on the Peloton. But that repetitive activity, when again, your mind slows a little bit and you get into a rhythm, and that's when I can connect with my inner wisdom. And if I'm mulling over a problem and I really want guidance, I literally give myself little therapy sessions where I walk with my phone, because now every phone records. It's so amazing. And I'll pose a question, and then I'll just see what comes through, and I'll just talk. And then later, I'll listen to what I said, and it's usually very helpful.
That's again, I'm a Napoleon Hill fan.
Okay. I have to read his stuff.
Yeah, I read it. I study it. I basically try to live it, because it's all, and it's amazing to me, because this guy was talking about quantum physics, basically.
Right.
Before, the internet. But two things that came up. So he talks about people like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison,
Right.
when they got stuck, that like Thomas Edison had this chair and he would just sit there and like just sit there until the thought came in. What was the other thing?
And those are both very examples of very intuitive, innovative souls that if you think about the things that they created, there's no way they could have created that just by sitting down with a pencil and pen. Those things were given through their intuition. And because whenever we can't innovate from our minds, we can only innovate from our spirit.
And I truly believe that, you know, and yeah, even today I was like, well, you answered my next question, I think.
Okay.
Because I was going to say, so if it starts with intuition and you got to be able to feel that and know, you know, something's like telling you something.
Right.
And how do you like open yourself up to start feeling it? But I think you just covered it, right?
You have to
It's basically slowing down and getting in the state of relaxation, like being in the now.
Yes, being in the now.
What about being grateful and just being?
Being grateful can be really helpful because being grateful from an energetic perspective raises your vibration. And so when you are in that higher vibratory state, you're able to connect more with your spirit, which is at a high state, if that makes sense. If you think about all things are energy, when we raise our energetic vibration, matter is a very low vibrating energy. And then like stressful feelings are lower still. Gratitude is a very high vibration energy. So it naturally calms your nervous system. It naturally calms you down and it naturally helps you connect with your inner wisdom. And I love gratitude because it's like a cheap and a free way to raise your vibration and also just uplift you energetically because everyone can always find something they're grateful for. It's so easy. And you don't have to, you know, think about what you don't have. You don't have to like, sometimes we want to put a happy sticker over what's hurting in us. And that's not such a great idea because it doesn't, you know, it doesn't go away. But gratitude is always like brings more happiness into the mix and it's so easy.
So I learned a few tricks with this and I like to share it because I did it the other day. You know, my ex-wife's dog I used to drive 2 hours just to take him to the park.
Oh.
Because that was my Zen time. That was my meditation. But he would like be at one end of the park and I would be at the other. It was like a game. And when it was time to leave, he would like come running at me. Like he was so happy. So I just remember that. And I'm like, yeah, I actually relived that moment. But what you said, and I want to ask another question because I'm leading up to something here. The vibrations and the energy, and what Napoleon Hill said that we are like receptors. We are like a radio station.
Yep.
You know, is that what you're talking about? Like
I think so.
Okay.
I haven't read Napoleon Hill, so there's that.
Okay. Well, I think
my understanding that everything is energy, and it's my understanding that comes from quantum physics. I don't have a scientist brain. I'm married to a physicist, so he has a scientist brain, but I don't go there. But that's my understanding. Everything's energy, and so it's just a matter of what level that energy is vibrating at, and we're picking up stuff all the time, and we are matching the energy of the things around us, and what we are putting out is what we are attracting back.
Okay, and this guy named I think his name was Albert Einstein.
Yeah, heard of him.
He said everything is energy.
Right. And
so to me that's not even debatable.
Yeah, and Albert Einstein also was a very intuitive soul who talks about intuition. You know, he talks about how it's intuition first and the mind second, and that the problem with our society is that up until now, we value the servant, which is our minds, over the intuition, which is the inspiration. So he's famous for that.
And the funny thing is, I don't think he believed in God. That was like the lifelong.
Exactly.
So I would have loved to have that conversation with him.
Absolutely, yeah. And spirituality and religion are different things. And some people absolutely find their spiritual connection through their religion, and that's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. And other people don't. And I just think it's really important to know it's very individual, and it's your connection with the divine and your connection with the meaning of life and the deeper meanings. And it can really be true for you. And, personally, I think as long as your spirituality doesn't tell you to hate or hurt or destroy other people, because that to me is not super helpful, then you're on the right track. It's what works for you and what gives your life meaning and purpose.
So the last thing I want to cover here, and it's pretty interesting for me because I was just in a mastermind and we were basically talking about the same thing, the connection, but it was in the context of business and marketing.
Okay.
So it was the connection between the heart and the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because, so my friend John Limbacher, and he's one of the best SEO guys in the world. Okay, and he knows this stuff. He's like, first you gotta appeal to their emotions, their heart. They gotta feel this. They gotta know the benefit. And then the brain is gonna say, no, we're not doing this. You don't need it. So is that like, how does that play into what you're doing?
Well, I mean, I'm always a fan of being more heart-based. I think more wisdom is here than here. I also think that a lot of us have limiting thoughts about what's possible, about what we should do, what we shouldn't do. If you look at all of the information out there, and I've talked about this a lot, but all the information in the world, most information comes from a place of fear. It comes from a place of wanting us to know something that other people don't know, wanting to limit us, wanting to protect us. And so most of the information in your brain is limiting. It's just limiting. It's not necessarily meant to be limiting, but it limits us. And there's a lot of fear in the way the way that I look at the mind as it gets formed over the first couple of years of our lives through those social interactions. And most of that social conditioning is fear-based. And so it limits us. And so I think, though, that when you really appeal to people's hearts, eventually they listen, because again, we all have that spiritual GPS and it's turned on all the time. And that sometimes we choose the hard road of banging our head against a lot of walls before finally we black out and wake up and see the way out. But if you stand true to your message, if you and speak with your heart to other hearts, people will hear you and people will wake up and they'll be like, I don't know what it is, but I want some of that. And that's my business model.
Right. No. And listen, that's actually John's business model.
Oh, cool.
He's an expert. And I'm just seeing the parallels.
Yeah.
And and as you said, as long as you're not doing it with bad intentions, because I don't know if you know anything about stuff like NLP, but
a little,
John's a marketing genius.
Yeah.
So this is, when you were talking, I'm like, I think I should have rephrased that question.
No, I liked it.
Because, well, you might like this one better.
Okay.
So if now I'm armed with the fact that really I got to start listening to my intuition, right?
Absolutely. You are already.
Well, I am.
You just get more permission to do it more now. That's all. You've already been doing it.
You're right about, like, I started just looking at my results and I was like, I'm not, and then, you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. That's insanity.
It is.
So then I had to go back, looking at my actions, and it turned out, I had money blocks. I hired a money mindset coach for that. And it turns out most people actually have that. And all the fears and the responsibilities of becoming successful. But this is my question now. And this is interesting because, John came from an advertising standpoint, which is like, let's hit their heart and then trick their brain basically into saying, yeah, I want this and I can afford this. So how do I know when it's really, the universe pushing me or it's something else? And
Oh,
if you could answer this,
that's such a good question. And it's funny because when I was at Princeton, I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. One of the things that I looked into doing was marketing because I had that skill set. And my first, I did a little internship, and the project was helping people. What was it? Nicotine gum was just going over the counter. It had been prescription. It was going over the counter. And my project was to find out they weren't going to be the first brand going over the counter. They were going to be number 2. So my project, they wanted to target the people that were going to be most successful. So I was going to do the research and tell them, who do we target? Who's the most successful? Well, it turns out that the people that are the most successful at quitting smoking are the ones that are going to do it cold turkey with no aids whatsoever. Right?
Not what they want to hear.
Right now, well, then they were going to target these people and convince them that they needed the gum. And, they were all so excited because we're finally on the right side of the advertising. And I'm thinking, wait, no, we're selling stuff to people that we're convincing them they need something they don't need because they were going to quit anyway. And that's why, for me personally, it did not resonate to continue on the path of working in marketing or advertising. But not that there's anything wrong with it. It's amazing.
No, that was the universe telling you that this isn't.
Yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to do. And that they were so excited because they were like anti-smoking. And I'm like, yeah, but still. But really, and again, as an intuitive person, as a sensitive person, and I have funky ways of understanding the world, but I can feel the hard sell. Like you feel it, like it's a pull. And then you go unconscious and then you wake up and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? So staying really conscious, staying really grounded is a really good way not to get sucked into that. And of course, we all can be manipulated. We're all manipulated all the time. The more present you are, the less you spend time in here. And the more you learn to get present, the more you'll know your truth, which might be different than what the person is trying to sell you. But intuition isn't like smoke and mirrors. It's very calm. It's very wise. And like I said, when you start to recognize what it feels like and you start to open up that dialogue, you just know. And it's usually calm. It's not usually a bunch of bells and whistles. So even if your intuition is telling you something that might be emotionally activating, it's usually super calm when it comes through. Sometimes we freak out and then it's hard to discern. So usually the hard sell is like a little more revved up, a little more excited, a little bit more like you have to do this. But you're asking another question too that I kind of want to address because my cognitive psychologist mind is going on.
Okay, but we only have a couple of minutes.
Okay.
No, because I want to tell people how to get in touch with
Yeah, that's good too. But anyway, they are different. A lot of people think of intuition as that sort of knee-jerk unconscious reactions. And sometimes our intuition does work through that adaptive unconscious, but it's different. It's different because the unconscious is just all of our associations, and that's where we can be manipulated. That's still the mind. Intuition can work through there because sometimes, when we're conscious, we block it. But the best way to connect with your intuition is to connect to what's called the superconscious mind, or what I'm calling the superconscious mind. And that's that place of presence and stillness and peace where you have that true and direct connection, and stuff will just magically happen for you. Okay.
Awesome. So, I talked about this, and this always irked me, these are big events, and the speakers, and then they're selling you a $12,000 package, and because I was in that. Actually, I'm still in that world. I don't do that stuff.
Right.
And so it's like, listen, act now. And I'm like, this stuff. So what I tell people, my advice is, listen, when you go to those places, just sleep on. You don't have because the deal's still going to be there tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you say. People get, and then they're like, why did I sign up for that?
Right. And that revved up feeling, you become overwhelmed and you go unconscious. And if you can step out of it, find your center, find your grounding, find your peace, and then ask the question, you might get a different answer.
All right. Listen, Victoria, yes. I got to run. I got a 5 o'clock and then an 8 o'clock. But this has been great. It's just like I predicted. If you remember, I said, we're going to have a great conversation. what we didn't cover is anything about your business,
That's okay.
which was really what, but
It is helpful, yeah.
what, but this is what you do with people, right? You walk them through this,
Yeah, I
right?
help people connect with their intuition, understand their intuition. I do coaching, where I can use my intuition to kind of get to the meat of the problem and the issue right away. Oh yeah, look at that. That's what I do. That's
Yeah,
me.
so this is your website. What's the name of your website? Because I'm not sure.
VictoriaShawIntuitive.com. So you've been looking at my name now for 40 minutes, and just add intuitive.com and we're good to go. And
Yes.
I also have a podcast, Intuitive Connection. You can find it on that screen as well. Well, not on that screen, but on my website. And I talk about all things intuitive. And I've just launched, which is how I met Joe, a Facebook community, Intuitive Connection community, where I'm going to be doing lots of free teachings, lots of free information, challenges, all sorts of good stuff, because it's really my mission to help people tap into their inner knowing.
Awesome. So next time, maybe we'll get a chance to talk about your business.
All good. All
But
good.
you gave us all, some great information. Connect with Victoria Shaw. And if you get that gut feeling, maybe you can use some help. I think the universe is telling you to connect with Victoria.
Yeah, if you feel it, you feel it. It's all good.
Yes. So thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Joe. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I'll be in touch. We'll connect again.
That'd be amazing.
And I'll know that I'll just know when to connect with you.
Absolutely. I trust and believe that. I really do.
Yes, so do
That's
I.
how I live my life.
Yes. Thank you, Victoria. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.